Hendrick Motorsports and Cog Racing announced that they are going to appeal the massive penalties they received on Wednesday. Hailie Deegan has a new sponsor, and Kevin Harvick is going to run a commemorative scheme at North Wilkesboro. What's going, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. We got a ton of NASCAR and other motorsports stories discussed here today on the channel. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into those really quickly. We're going to go ahead and start by talking about Logitech. As it was announced on Wednesday, Logitech is going to sponsor Jack Wood this weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Really excited to see Logitech is going to be sponsoring Jack Wood and sponsoring Kyle Busch Motorsports. I can't remember the last time Logitech was a sponsor of NASCAR, so really good to see a new company coming into play and sponsoring Jack Wood and KBM this weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're going to talk about Follow Me Global Business Solutions. As it was announced yesterday that Follow Me Global Business Solutions is going to sponsor Greg Gaulding for multiple races in 2023, starting this weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Really excited to see a new company coming in to sponsor Greg Gaulding. It's good to see a sponsorship and funding. Hope we can help with some of the results because Greg Gaulding's had a struggling start the 2023. Hope this company can help him have a great and continue a not so great start. I know he hasn't had a good start to the year. Hope he can improve this weekend at Atlanta. And now we'll go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're going to talk about the Darlington Xfinity Series race as they have a title sponsor, which will be called the Shriners Children 200. I believe Shriners Children has done multiple sponsorships in the Xfinity Series in the past, so really exciting to see they're going to sponsor the Darlington Xfinity Series race, which of course will be the May race that's going to take place. Really exciting stuff. I'm glad to see the Shriners Children will sponsor the Xfinity Series race at Darlington. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're going to talk about the Martinsville Xfinity Series Sprint Race as their title sponsor has also been revealed as well. It's going to be the call811.com before you dig 250. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, call811.com before you dig 250 has already been a sponsor for the Martinsville Xfinity Series race in the past a couple years ago. So really awesome to see that they are going to continue their partnership with the Xfinity Series race at Martinsville going forward. I think that's really exciting and pretty cool to see that they are focusing on that and glad to see that they are going to be sponsoring that event. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we are talking about the Atlanta purse money for this weekend. Every single race, Bob Pockers, and every single weekend, Bob Pockers puts out basically how much money the Cup Series, Xfinity Series, and Truck Series races will always have for the week. So for the Cup Series races, $8,725,965. For the Xfinity Series, it's $1,274,624. And for the Truck Series, it's $673,693. Cup Series is always a lot more money because of the charter system, so that's why it ends up always being a lot more money for the Cup Series, respectively. But that's the purse money for this weekend. Honestly, pretty good money for the Cup Series, nearly $9 million altogether across the board. But again, a lot of that money is going to go to the charter team. So overall, I am excited to see that that's a lot of money going for the event, and pretty cool. There's going to be a lot of money for the event overall, in my opinion. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're going to talk about 100 Days to Indy. As yesterday, the CW put out the first preview for the 100 Days to Indy. I believe it will be coming out here not too far down the road. I think later this March or early April is going to be the first day of the 100 Days to Indy. It's going to be a little bit of a series previewing up to the Indianapolis 500, which of course takes place on Memorial Day weekend. I love it. They're doing this on the CW. I don't know how many people are going to tune in, but I do love it doing it on the CW. Hopefully we'll bring some new fans in, and I think it's really cool they're doing a new TV show. I wish it was on Netflix, don't get me wrong, or another streaming platform, but at the end of the day, I'm very excited to see, though, that there is a new company coming in, and really excited to see the CW is partnering up on that front, in my opinion. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Haas Automation. Now, we talked about Haas Automation a couple days ago in regards that there have been talks that they may have been sanctions with Russia. However, very recently, Haas Automation actually came out and says the PBS claim is actually false, basically denying all the claims that they've had manufacturing help and that they support the other side of what is exactly going on. Now, this is very interesting because from what some people are saying that they've had this going on since 2014, while they say that it is not the case. This is very interesting. Why is this a big deal and why is this a big story? Well, when it comes to this situation, Haas Automation, of course, the company, the owner is Gene Haas. Gene Haas is the owner of Haas Automation, and Gene Haas is a big part in Stewart Haas Racing. we know that Haas Racing is already in some financial trouble, some financial problems. Busch Beer's in the talks of leaving. I wonder if this has a big role and big reason why Busch Beer could also be leaving Haas Racing. This could be a big reason for that. This is a big story that is going to be false. Of course, they're going to claim it's false. That's what they're going to do. But in my opinion, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens going forward and what happens down the road when it comes to this. I think this is definitely a really big story to follow, and it'll be one thing to watch as time goes on if things get worse or better in this situation. So we'll see what happens going forward, but I think it's a very interesting story that we're going to be following as we get closer to this getting settled down. In my opinion, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens going forward for sure. We'll see what happens going forward. And now we're going to head on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Mason Maggio. As it was announced a couple days ago that Mason Maggio is going to drive the 20 for Young's Motorsports this weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Mason Maggio is a very talented up-and-coming driver. He's driven for DGM Motorsports and a couple organizations in the past, and he's making some starts with Young's Motorsports starting this weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway. I think this is a really great opportunity for Mason Maggio. I think Mason is a very, very talented driver, and I think Mason could have a very strong run, especially super speedways. We saw how fast this 20 truck really was with Derek Kraus. Derek Kraus qualified very, very well with this team, and I think that you're going to see him run very, very good this weekend at Atlanta. We'll see what they can do. Their team has been really good at super speedway tracks in the past. We've seen them win a couple races. Tate Fogelman got a win with the team at Talladega, and Spencer Boyd also got a win with the team at Talladega as well. So we'll see what happens, and maybe Mason Maggio could pick up his first career win. Though I'm not expecting it, we could see him pick up his first career win in his Truck Series career at Atlanta Motor Speedway. We'll see what ends up happening, though, but he's going to drive this car this weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Really looking forward to it. And now we're going to head on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Joey Logano. Now, Joey Logano basically was talking on Sirius XM NASCAR radio, and he was talking about Ross Chastain. Joey Logano says that a few years ago, he had a conversation with Ross Chastain about the aggression side of things. Now, obviously, Joey Logano is a driver who is extremely aggressive on the racetrack, and also Ross Chastain is a very aggressive driver. So if there's anybody that's going to talk to Ross Chastain years ago about his aggression, it is going to be someone like Joey Logano. And I think he told him, just giving him a lot of advice about that side of aggression. Joey Logano's had a lot of aggression, but that is what has led Joey Logano to having 2 championships. But it's also led to Joey Logano having a lot of rivalries with a lot of drivers, including Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin in the past. He's had rivalries with them. He's had issues, I think, with Kyle Larson in the past. So his stuff has led to some on-track controversies. But I will say, though, if there's someone that's going to be really perfect, talk about the aggression side of things, it is Joey Logano, because Joey Logano is a very aggressive driver. And we know that Joey Logano recently got into Kyle Busch at the LA Clash. So Logano has sometimes learned when to use aggression, sometimes not to learn to use his aggression. But I think Logano is someone that's a really perfect driver to come out and talk about the aggression side of things, because I think it does make a lot of sense for him to come out and talk about that kind of stuff. And he's really fun to listen to on Sirius XM NASCAR radio, so you should always check out his show. But I think it's really good to see that someone like Joey Logano can come out and talk about the aggression side of things, because I think it makes a lot of sense for Joey Logano to get involved on that side of the front. And I think it makes a lot of sense for him to get involved in that, in my honest opinion. And now we're going to head on to the next story of today's episode as we're going to talk about Josh Blecki. As it was announced yesterday that Josh Blecki is going to drive the 91 for DGM Racing next weekend at Circuit of the Americas. Along with him driving the number 78 car for Live Fast Motorsports in the NASCAR Cup Series with Ziegler Partnership and Bojack backing on the car. He'll make another start in the Xfinity Series in the 91 car. Now, Josh Blecki, I believe, has made only 1 start so far this year in all the series combined, and I believe that was at Las Vegas last week or 2 weeks ago. I think Josh Blecki is a very, very talented driver. I just don't think the equipment has been there for him, really is in his entire career. Now, when it comes to DGM Racing on road courses, this team can run very well on road courses. We've seen what Preston Pardis has been able to do with the team. Of course, he'll be making his season debut next week with the Pardis Racing organization. But this is a good guy to bring in for road courses. I think Josh Blecki is a really, really strong and a really, really great road course racer. And I think he's going to do a very solid and a really, really good job with this team coming up next weekend at Circuit of the Americas. I'm really looking forward to it. I think he's a great driver to bring in for the road courses, and I think that he will do an awesome job with the team. I expect the top 15 or top 20 if he makes the show, and I think he will easily make the show with DGM Racing. I think he's going to do an awesome and a great job with the team. I'm really excited to see that Josh Blecki's coming back to drive for DGM Racing. And now we're going to head on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Ryan Hunter-Reay. As it was announced on Wednesday afternoon that Ryan Hunter-Reay is going to drive the 23 for Dreyer Reinbold Racing in this year's Indianapolis 500. Holy crap, I am absolutely stoked and pumped that Ryan Hunter-Reay is going to run the Indianapolis 500. Ryan Hunter-Reay has won the Indy 500 pass back in 2014, holding off a hard-charging Julio Castroneves, who at the time was looking for his 4th Indianapolis 500 victory. This is a perfect guy to bring into the Dreyer Reinbold Racing group because Dreyer Reinbold Racing is a team that only tends to run maybe the Indianapolis 500, but they put a lot of focus into that, and they generally run up front every single time. And Ryan Hunter-Reay is a perfect driver to bring in to the Dreyer Reinbold Racing organization. He's got a lot of veteran experience, and he's really helped a lot of the teams over the years get opportunities to be really, really competitive. So I think that Ryan Hunter-Reay has a very good chance and a really good shot to win this year's Indianapolis 500. I think he's going to be competitive. I think he's going to be very, very quick. And like I said, I think that Ryan Hunter-Reay does have a legitimate shot to win this year's Indianapolis 500. I think he's going to be very, very fast, very, very quick, and I think he will be someone who you have to watch in this year's Indy 500. I think he's going to be very, very competitive, and I think he's got a really good chance to win the Indianapolis 500, in my honest opinion. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Lane Riggs. As it was officially announced on Wednesday early afternoon that Lane Riggs is going to drive the 1 for Tricon Garage this weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Now, Lane Riggs initially was supposed to drive a second Hallmark Friesen racing truck. However, it sounds like I don't know what's going on with that team. Maybe sponsorship funding has not been able to come through. But this will be Lane Riggs' first opportunity to race in the Craftsman Truck Series this year. Lane Riggs, in my opinion, is one of the most talented drivers in the country. He's a driver who always gets the best out of equipment. And I go back to that Phoenix race last year especially where he was very competitive, was up front, and was leading at one point, holding up I think the hard-charging Zane Smith or Ty Majeska, if I'm not mistaken. That was who was leading at the time. Lane Riggs was very, very fast and very quick in that race. And I think Lane Riggs is going to have a very good chance and a really good opportunity to win this event. Tricon Garage has shown some decent speed, or not been the fastest organization, but we've seen a lot of great drivers get opportunities to drive for Tricon Garage this year, and I think that he'll be very competitive this week, and this is a very exciting opportunity, and I hope this leads to a full-time opportunity with Tricon Garage maybe next season if he does well, or maybe make some more starts with Tricon Garage this year if he can't run for Hallmark Friesen. But it really is exciting, though, to see that he will be driving this car. I'm looking forward to it, and I think that he will be very, very quick this weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway. I expect him to have a very strong run, and I think that he'll have a very, very fast run this weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Excited to see that he will be running with this team this weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway. It's really exciting stuff. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Hendrick Motorsports. As we'll talk a little more about Hendrick Motorsports appealing the penalties here later, but Hendrick Motorsports basically did announce that they will be deferring the penalty. They will not be deferring the suspension. So they'll have new crew chiefs for the next 4 weeks, starting this weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway. So William Byron's crew chief is going to be Brian Camp. Kyle Larson's crew chief is going to be Kevin Mendering. Alex Bowman's crew chief is going to be for his old crew chief last year, Greg Ives. And Josh Berry's crew chief will be Chase Elliott's engineer, Tom Gray. Very interesting choices to bring in, of course, all 4 of the normal crew chiefs, that being Alan Gustafson, Rudy Fiegel, Blake Harris, and also Cliff Daniels, are all suspended for the next 4 weeks. Kevin Mendering worked with Kyle Larson for a couple races last year when Larson had a loose wheel come off. We've seen Tom Gray work with Chase Elliott in the past, so a lot of these guys already have crew chiefing experience, I think, except Brian Camp. I don't know if he's had any crew chiefing experience or not. I still, even though they've got different crew chiefs coming in, I still expect that all 4 will be very, very strong as crew chiefs. Are going to do a really good job trying to help all 4 drivers out here. Obviously, they all got handed massive, massive penalties we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. But these are all 4 really solid and really, really good crew chiefs who've had experience. Kevin Mendering was a decent crew chief. Great guys. I know that he didn't always do good in the summer stretch, but I think great guys will be really good with Alex Bowman. Bowman's shown a lot of great pace and speed, and I expect that Hendrick Motorsports will not lose a beat throughout the season. I'm really excited about this overall, and good to see all these crew chiefs are coming in. 2 of these crew chiefs we expected, Bob Bob Pockrass reported on this on Wednesday when the penalties came out, that he was expecting Kevin Meendering and also Greg Ives to be two of the crew chiefs coming in. It makes a lot of sense to bring all four of these people in and all these individuals in, and it makes a lot of sense. And since Kyle Larson is driving what the 48 car team was a few years ago, Cliff Daniels was the crew chief for Jimmy Johnson that last year. This is the 48 team technically before Kyle Larson took the 5 team. It does make a lot of sense to bring all four of these crew chiefs in. Overall, in my opinion, I think it's really exciting and really great stuff for sure, in my honest and sincere opinion. And now we're going ahead to jump on to the next story of today's episode as we are talking about Auto Club Speedway. Now, it's been reported over the last couple days around Auto Club Speedway that basically Nate Ryan was the first one to initially report on this, that the track's website shows the naming rights for Auto Club expired on March the 15th. Now the track is no longer called Auto Club Speedway and it's called Next Gen Speedway. And he also notes that it's TBT on the track construction. Now, obviously, the track has not begun construction at this point. The plan is from Auto Club Speedway. They've sold off a lot of the land over the last few months. And basically, what is going on is that the track will convert from 2-mile track down to a 2/3 mile track. So, be basically taking out 2/3 of what the track size was. And they plan to have, I think, around 40,000 or 50,000 seats at the facility as well. Now, obviously, like I said, the track that we don't know what the future is going to be. Even though I'm not as big a fan of reconstructing a track from a 2-mile track down to 2/3 mile track, a short track, I think it does make a lot of sense because one, selling off a lot of land. When you basically get $500 million minimum, and it sounds like it could be even more at this point, it makes a lot of sense to sell a lot of the land. Now, the big question is that when will the track be ready if it does end up getting ready? The earliest we will see racing Auto Club, if there's a possibility, would be 2025. And I'll be honest with you guys, I don't think it'll be 2025. The earliest we'll see racing at Next Gen Speedway will likely be 2026 if the track can get done. It may not have a bright future either. We don't really know at this point because it's going to be a few years down the road for this track is ready. Because again, they're not racing next year in 2024, so they have to figure out what is going to be the track that is going to replace this track for 2024. We're early in the year though, so they got plenty of time to figure that out. That being said, though, the future, I think, is a little bit bleak. It's unclear at this point what the future is going to look like. I think they're going to try to get the track going. I believe they will try to get the track going, but we'll have to see what happens in regards to that, if they can get the track ready to go and can get the track done for the future, and hopefully it can get done here in the foreseeable future. Hopefully it does end up getting done. And now we're going ahead to jump on to the next story of today's episode as we are talking about the Nashville Fairgrounds. As it was reported on Wednesday or Thursday morning that at the Nashville Fair Board, NASCAR is committed to using mufflers at the facility. And they are planning to unveil a long-term sustainability plan when it comes to that. Now, what is this long-term stability plan? Well, in that tweet as well that Bob Pockrass mentions, it does sound like that electric vehicle series is in the works currently at the moment with the Nashville Fairgrounds. Now, obviously, we talked about this on the channel 2 days ago on Wednesday that NASCAR is in conversations to have an electric vehicle series. Still, they actually were initially planning to have an electric vehicle series in 2023, debut at the LA Coliseum. Unfortunately, though, what ended up happening was it did not end up going through, but now it sounds like talks are back in the works for this electric vehicle series to come into play. Next thing, though, let's talk about the mufflers coming to Nashville Fairgrounds. It makes a lot of sense. We know the mufflers are going to be run at Chicago Street Course. We already saw that they basically ran them at the LA Coliseum. They're trying to have it basically in a city where they could basically go to more city tracks and having mufflers. Now, there was carbon monoxide issues from what drivers had said, but this is something that they are planning to test. They already tested last week about the mufflers. They already tested last week about the mufflers after the Las Vegas race. On the Wednesday after the Vegas race. But I do love the fact that they're talking about an electric vehicle series. Trust me, I'd rather not have an electric vehicle series, but we need to basically look at the future, and we need to look at what the future holds in general. So we are going to have electric vehicle series regardless, in my honest opinion, and it makes a lot of sense to kind of start talking about an electric vehicle series going forward. It does make a lot of sense, and it does sound like there's a lot of talk about that going forward, and we'll see what happens when it comes to that, when it does come to the electric vehicle series. It's one thing to watch going forward. And now we're going ahead to jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Michael Jordan. Now, this is not basically a NASCAR story, but this is a pretty big story if you are a NASCAR fan to pay attention to, because there was a report that came out from Adrian Wojnarowski from ESPN, and he says that Michael Jordan is engaged in serious talks to sell a majority stake in the Charlotte Hornets franchise to, I believe, a couple of the Atlanta Hawks owners of that franchise. Held basically a majority of his stake. Now, Michael Jordan is a current owner of the Charlotte Hornets, but also he owns 23XI Racing. What I'm thinking is that Michael Jordan is either, one, going to go and work at a new NBA organization and basically work maybe for Chicago Bulls, or, number two, sell off his stake and put a lot of money into 23XI Racing. Like I already mentioned, Michael Jordan is a co-owner of 23XI Racing. And let's be honest, I know that his work with the Charlotte Hornets has not been very, very good, and they haven't had a lot of success. However, when you look at Michael Jordan, what he's done, a lot of people say Michael Jordan hasn't really been completely involved, though we do know that Michael Jordan is someone involved with 23XI Racing and working with that team. And he's able to bring a lot of sponsors in funding, and maybe, just maybe, with him getting more involved now with 23XI, which it sounds like could be a very big possibility with this move happening, he could get involved a lot more and try to help the team build up and continue to build their confidence as an organization. I think it's one thing we're going to be watching as time goes on when it does come, because we, of course, we know that there's talk about expansion with 23XI Racing, trying to get another charter, which, of course, Sable has said that charters are kind of volatile at the moment, and they cost around $30 million. They want to expand next year to 3 full-time cars. They've got Bubba Walsh driving the 23 and Tyler Reddick driving the 45 at the moment, and Kurt Busch might run some select races, which we're going to talk about Kurt Busch here in just a little bit. But Michael Jordan could basically work a lot more with 23XI Racing, continue to build 23XI Racing toward a really strong organization. It's one thing to watch for sure when it comes to that, and we'll see what happens in regards to that going forward. Hopefully things continue to get better in regards to that. And now we'll go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Denny Hamlin. As Denny Hamlin announced on Twitter on Wednesday evening that he will not be appealing the penalties that he received on Wednesday. Now, what are the exact penalties that Denny Hamlin received? Denny Hamlin basically got a 25-point penalty and a $50,000 fine for intentionally wrecking Ross Chastain down the backstretch on the last couple laps at Phoenix Raceway. Now, there was contact at the end of the race between Denny Hamlin and Ross Chastain, and Denny Hamlin forced Ross Chastain up basically into the outside wall, and there was continuous contact. We all thought it might have been an accident. Denny Hamlin got loose. Well, Denny Hamlin went on his podcast and admitted that he intentionally ran into Ross Chastain and did it on purpose as payback for what happened at the Busch Light Clash. Both him and Ross Chastain have had contact for the last few years. Ross and Denny Hamlin had a rivalry, and it's no secret they both really do not get along very, very well. Eldon Sawyer basically did come out and say that if Denny Hamlin had not said anything, he would not have been penalized for it. Now, I obviously do believe that Denny Hamlin should have. Here's my opinion on this. I do believe Denny Hamlin should have gotten a fine for it, maybe like a $25,000 fine. I do believe that the points penalty was probably a little bit too much excessive. I understand they're trying to be consistent with the penalties, with the same thing with William Byron. But here's the difference between what William Byron did and what Denny Hamlin did. You see, Denny Hamlin did not really wreck Ross Chastain. He ran into him, but he didn't really wreck Ross Chastain. Denny Hamlin just forced Ross Chastain in the outside wall, and I understand that they want to be safe with these next-gen cars because you don't want to hit these guys in the rear because we know these cars are not as safe. But you basically want this whole boys have at it mentality, and NASCAR says, oh, we'll basically let it have hands off the guard, and then you have this situation, they penalize the driver. In my opinion, Denny Hamlin should not have gotten any sort of points penalty. He should have gotten a fine probably because he admitted it. And he probably shouldn't have admitted it on his podcast. But Denny Hamlin also, I appreciate him for at least admitting that he decided to do what he did to Chastain. He probably thought it was stupid. It's pretty dumb, though, to admit it because you're going to get a penalty like this. But in my opinion, I don't think Denny Hamlin should have gotten a points penalty. I think a fine was justified, but I don't think a points penalty was completely justified in my opinion. But Denny Hamlin, not surprised, is not appealing the penalties. I'm not surprised he isn't appealing the penalties, and it makes a lot of sense that he's gone ahead and not appealed the penalties. I'm not surprised by that, in my honest opinion. I'm not generally shocked or surprised that he is not appealing the penalties. And now we'll go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Kaulig Racing. Unlike Denny Hamlin, Kaulig Racing is going to appeal their penalties. Yesterday, they released a statement and announced that they will be appealing the penalties they received that are similar to Hendrick Motorsports. They say prior to qualifying Saturday, only one of the louvers on the 31 was confiscated, showing inconsistencies. Now, what happened? Well, like I just said a second ago, Kaulig Racing, one of their louvers was confiscated, and because of the fact, very similar to Hendrick Motorsports, they received a 100-point penalty, 100 driver points, 100 owner points, and also receive $100,000 fines. And unlike Hendrick Motorsports, who's deferring their suspension, not deferring suspensions, Trent Owens will be back as a crew chief because his penalty has been deferred, meaning that he will not start serving his suspension until they have the appeals. Now, this is very interesting because Car Racing, when it comes to them, they only have one of their lubers confiscated. So that's a little odd to me that only one of their lubers got confiscated compared to Hendricks, which have both of theirs. They only have one of their lubers confiscated, which is very, very weird. Now, Alan Sawyer did say that they basically knew exactly what they did was wrong, but I really don't know exactly. Basically, I don't really know if they may have a chance of winning this. Again, I still think that there's a chance that they could win, very slim chance, because it is inconsistency and it's bad communication. We do know there's been communication issues. Hendrick Motorsports, talk about them in a second when it does come about. But it's very interesting that Car Racing, the only one of their lubers was confiscated. You would think that both of them would have gotten confiscated, right? But the fact only one of their lubers was confiscated, that was a little bit of surprise and a little bit of a red flag, in my opinion, if they only had one of theirs confiscated and not both of theirs confiscated, because you would have thought that they were definitely cheating. They would have had both of theirs confiscated, but the fact they only have one of theirs confiscated is a little bit of an issue when it comes to being consistent when it does come to those penalty calls. That being said, though, if they were cheating and they do end up losing their appeal, I think that the chance of them winning are pretty slim. They could have a little bit of a chance, though, because they do have potential evidence that they could bring into the play. And if they have evidence on that, they may have a chance of getting the penalties reduced. This seems like it could be a manufacturing problem. It could be a manufacturing issue, but I don't know at this point. That being said, though, Car Racing believes they did nothing wrong in the situation, and they are going to appeal the penalties, which isn't a big shock and a big surprise that they're going to be appealing those penalties. It's a pretty massive penalty, too. It's a 100-point penalty. It basically puts Chastain Hailie under below 4 negative points. He's got negative 40 points at the moment right now, so he's in a little bit of struggling position, so I'm not surprised or shocked that he is going to appeal those penalties. Not a big surprise or shock. And now we're going to head on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Kurt Busch. Now, Kurt Busch was at Richmond Raceway yesterday, I believe for some sort of thing that Lori C. Warren, who is the new president of Richmond Raceway, that she was doing. And Kurt Busch also had a couple things that he kind of announced, and he also provided an update on his recovery. He's still not cleared to race at this current moment right now. He's still working on it, and he's continuing to recover. But he also announced at that Q&A that he is expected to be in the Fox Sports booth at Circuit of the Americas next week. First thing, let's talk about Kurt Busch in the recovery process. Kurt Busch has talked about his recovery process a lot. Has been asked a lot of questions about that. Kurt Busch still has a desire to get back behind the wheel of a NASCAR Cup Series car and race, and wants to race in NASCAR once again. But he still has not been medically cleared to race at this point, which is very, very surprising because the last time Kurt Busch raced in NASCAR was in a New Hampshire Raceway. He was qualifying in that July race for Pocono, but he basically suffered a concussion-like symptoms and most likely suffered a concussion from that. And with Kurt Busch being a much older driver now, because Kurt Busch is 44 years old now, Kurt Busch is someone who's not young, so he probably is a little bit harder for Kurt Busch to recover from something like that compared to someone who's a little bit younger, which would take less time to recover from concussion-like symptoms. But I think that Kurt Busch, I'm wishing him the best, and I hope he continues to recover as he continues to recover from that. I hope Kurt Busch gets back on the wheel, and I will say this. They have a car ready to go for him. If he does want to return, they have a third 2311 racing car, the 67 car, that will be available for Kurt Busch once he is available to come back in and race. But he still has to be medically cleared to race. Second thing, let's talk about going to the Fox Sports booth in COTA. If he basically confirms he's going to be in the Fox booth at COTA, I am looking forward to that. Kurt Busch is someone who I've really enjoyed in the booth, whether it's Xfinity Series booth or whether it's the Truck Series booth. He provides a lot of the insight and does a very good job in the booth. And I think he is going to continue to do that job once again in the booth at Circuit of the Americas. And it's going to make the booth at Fox so much more bearable. One of my biggest problems with the Fox Sports booth is that the booth has just, for the Cup Series side of things, has been very unbearable to listen to and witness. With Kurt likely going into the Fox booth next week at COTA, I think he's going to do a very stellar job and do a great job in the booth because I think he's going to provide a lot of insight and a lot of great analysis. And just seeing him back at the racetrack, we've seen him basically at the NHRA track. He was at the Gator Nationals last week. But Kurt Busch, seeing him back at a racetrack is just making him a lot happier. And to see that he's going to be likely in the Fox Sports booth is not only awesome, but also fantastic in my honest opinion. So seeing Kurt Busch back at the track is just phenomenal. And I'm looking forward to see he'll likely be in the Fox Sports booth at COTA. And also, I hope he can return to the racetrack very, very soon. We miss seeing Kurt Busch out on the racetrack. And hopefully, in the not-so-distant future, Kurt Busch will be able to come back and race on the racetrack here. Hopefully, very, very soon. Hopefully, see Kurt Busch back very soon. And now we'll go ahead and jump on to the first of three major stories in today's episode as we're talking about Kevin Harvick. Now, Kevin Harvick basically teased and Fox teased that there was going to be a pretty big announcement that was going to be on Race Hub. Well, there was a massive announcement that came out yesterday. Kevin Harvick announced that he is going to run the number 29 in a throwback paint scheme to his 2001 Atlanta car win when he got his first career NASCAR Cup Series win, edging out Jeff Gordon at Atlanta Motor Speedway for North Wilkesboro in the All-Star race. Holy crap, when I saw this announcement, I was absolutely shocked, but also stoked that they were going to be doing this. I don't know how much to tell you guys, but I really wanted Kevin Harvick to run this paint scheme either for the All-Star race or run this for basically the throwback race. The fact that they're going to run this at the All-Star race is absolutely beautiful. And I just want to say the fact that they're running commemorative scheme is great. That is one of my favorite things about the All-Star race is the fact that we get to see legendary commemorative schemes and legendary numbers and see drivers run different numbers. We saw back in 2016, Kyle Busch run the number 75 car. We saw Jimmy Johnson run the number 5 car in 2011 and Mark Martin run the number 25 car in 2011 as well. That's my favorite things about this is you get to see legendary commemorative schemes and legendary different schemes for this event. That's one thing about the All-Star race I really, really love. But I also love the fact they're running this. This is just so incredible, and they did an amazing job on this, in my opinion. And I really hope this car wins the race. I usually don't root for Kevin Harvick. It's my favorite. I like Kevin Harvick a lot, but he's not usually a guy I'm rooting for. But I'm going to be, and I think a lot of people should be rooting for Kevin Harvick to win. And this, for me, right here, I know that Ryan Blaney scheme came out, that 12 body armor scheme, and that's one of my favorite schemes for sure. This right here so far is my favorite paint scheme that has been revealed for all three series combined. It looks amazing. They did an amazing job on this commemorative scheme, and it looks incredible. And I'm so stoked and so excited to see that this is going to be run at North Wilkesboro. They did an amazing job. And I just think about all the great memories that the 29 car has brought. Him getting his first win in Atlanta. Him edging out Mark Martin in 2007 Daytona 500. Him edging out Jamie McMurray in 2010 at Talladega. And winning all those races that he's been able to win and accomplish throughout his career in that number 29 car. I just think it's so awesome to see all the success that Kevin Harvick has had over the years. And it's going to be really sad when Kevin Harvick does retire at the end of the year. But as Kevin Harvick really isn't going away, he's just going to be going up to the Fox Sports booth at the end of the year and working up there, which I'm looking forward to him being in the Fox Sports booth next year, by the way, on a full-time basis. But I think it's just so cool that Kevin Harvick is doing this. I love it. They're running a commemorative scheme for him. It looks fantastic. It looks absolutely incredible. And I'm stoked and excited to see that Kevin Harvick is going to run this commemorative scheme. It looks awesome. It looks fantastic that they're doing this. And it's a really awesome looking paint scheme. And I'm looking forward to see this out on the racetrack at North Wilkesboro. Looks fantastic. And I remember all the members being growing up as a fan of Kevin Harvick. It looks amazing. And maybe Kevin Harvick will win that race and hopefully does win his final All-Star attempt that he decides to do in his career. Really looking forward to him having this car out on the track. And now we'll go ahead and jump on to the next major story in today's episode as we're talking about Hailie Deegan. As Hailie Deegan announced yesterday that she has a new sponsor for this weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Hailie Deegan's already had a couple sponsors sponsor her this year, one of those not being Monster Energy at this point, but she will be sponsored by Advent Health this weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway with a partnership with Women in NASCAR, which I don't know how many races that they are going to sponsor this year, but this is a new sponsor for her that will start this weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway. First of all, really excited to see that she has a new sponsor. She's had 2 different trucks that she has ran so far to start the year. And it's really awesome to see that Advent Health is coming in and sponsoring Hailie Deegan. It's a new partner for her going forward, especially besides the jump up to the series going forward. I really hope that she can also have some really good runs in this truck. But this truck was absolutely amazing and incredible. And let's go back and talk about that. She's able to get a lot of sponsorship funding. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Hailie Deegan has a really big social media presence. And we've seen her pick up some sponsors on the social media side of things that have really helped her out throughout her career. Now, hopefully, with the sponsorship and stuff, it can draw her having a lot better results, because it's no secret that she has struggled in the first few starts in the Truck Series. But let's be for real, both those times she has not been at fault for the incidents. But she also needs to be a little more aggressive on the racetrack and do a little better job on the restarts, because she has been killed on the restarts. She's got to do a better job being more aggressive. And she's also getting acclimated with ThorSport. I still think as the season goes on, Hailie Deegan is going to improve as a driver and do better as a driver, because I think Hailie Deegan has a lot of potential, and she does have a lot of talent. I think she's a very talented driver. I know that she hasn't had a great Truck Series career, which is why I wish she was full-time in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, because in my honest opinion, if she was full-time in the Xfinity Series, she'd be treated with a lot more respect, because let's be honest, the drivers in the Truck Series do not treat drivers in that series with a lot of respect. There's been a lack of respect in the Truck Series over the years. I think we've seen a lot of respect so far this year, except with Hailie Deegan, of course. But in my honest opinion, I really hope that she can improve and get a good run this weekend in Atlanta. This is a really nice looking truck, in my opinion, by the way. I think they did sell her and a really, really good job on this truck, and I'm really excited that she has a new sponsor for this weekend. I think it's just when you have a new sponsor like Advanhealth come into play and sponsor her, I think it's awesome they sponsor Ross Chastain quite a bit. So maybe she's going to be in the same management company as Ross Chastain. I think that'd be really, really cool. And maybe throughout the year, other companies could come into play and sponsor. We know Monster Energy is going to be one of her sponsors this season. We don't know how many races they are going to sponsor, and I cannot wait for them to show that sponsor. But I think it's awesome that she has a new sponsor for this weekend. It's really exciting stuff. And to see her have a new sponsor at the racetrack is going to be fun. The truck looks great, in my opinion. We'll hopefully have a chance to see her qualify today. It doesn't sound like there's a chance that we'll see qualifying today, though. Probably get rained out because weather's in the forecast for the weekend. But I am very happy that she has a new sponsor for this weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Really looking forward to that, in my opinion. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the final major story of today's episode, as we are talking about Hendrick Motorsports. As expected, Hendrick Motorsports is going to appeal the penalties that they have received and basically announce in a statement that they are disappointed with NASCAR's decision. And they give 3 big reasons why they are going to be appealing the penalties. Number 1, the lures provided do not match the design that were sent to the manufacturers. This is one thing that they have come out and publicly stated. Jeff Gordon went on basically after when they won at Phoenix, when they got their second straight win with William Byron. Jeff Gordon said that same thing, that they did not match the design that they ended up receiving. Second thing, poor communication. Basically, there's been a lot of talk, there's been issues with the manufacturing side of things, that there apparently was really poor communication. We saw the same thing with Kaulig Racing as well, and there was poor communication where they said that they might have had an issue, and they all said that they were confiscated during qualifying before practice happened, and they did not affect their qualifying performance nor their race performance as well. And they also said the final reason is that recent penalties have been post-race. Remember, all 3 of the other 100-point penalties, that being the one that Kevin Harvick received, Michael McDowell received, and Brad Keselowski received, were all basically post-race inspections and not pre-race inspections. And there was another team that had a pre-race one, and they only received a 35-point penalty for basically modifying a part, because they got called out for modifying a part, and they only got a 35-point penalty. Now, Hendrick Motorsports might have a very slight case, and what are those penalties exactly? Well, let me recap them for you. This is the largest single-team penalty in NASCAR history. They received 100-point penalties for all 4 cars, that meaning altogether 400 points altogether, except that Chase Elliott is not one of those drivers there. 400 owners' points altogether. They received $400,000 fine for the whole organization in general, which is the biggest penalty in NASCAR Cup Series history when it comes to fines. And also, all 4 crew chiefs are suspended, and unlike Kaulig Racing, they are going to be going ahead and serving the penalties. Now, if it is true, and they have documentation that they basically were told that, yes, you can go ahead and basically appeal and basically say go ahead and run those, then they might have a very slight chance to win. However, NASCAR has publicly come out and said that basically that is not really true, and basically they said that they basically were told, and basically it's part of the gray area and such. And again, what is one of the reasons why they're penalizing these teams? Well, the teams have been told by NASCAR, this is something that was part of the rulebook last year, they want everyone to be on an equal playing field. And they do not want these teams modifying the parts. And if they do, you're going to be handed a very, very harsh penalty, which is why Hendrick Motorsports got laid down the hammer. But Hendrick Motorsports, not surprisingly, is going to appeal those penalties. And I'm not surprised. You have to appeal a major penalty like that, because it's taking you out of a chance probably to win at least maybe, or have maybe potential of winning the regular season championship. But I will say this, even though Hendrick Motorsports is probably really going to have a hard time getting back up there and win the regular season championship, I still think of how fast Hendrick Motorsports has been, because I don't think the Hendrick Motorsports performance is going to drop, in my opinion. I think that they still have a chance of winning the regular season championship, because remember, they're not more than, I think Larson might be, 80 or 90 points back. Bowman's only like 30-something, like maybe 80 points back. And I think William Byron's about 90 points back. So they still have a realistic shot of winning the regular season championship. It's not like RFK last year. It's not like Front Row Motorsports last year, or even SHR last year in some sort of capacity, where they were not doing as well. I still think the Hendrick Motorsports will be fine. I don't think that they're going to struggle. Will they push the boundaries as much? I don't know. Maybe they won't push the boundaries as much, so they don't get in as much trouble. That could be a very big potential possibility, where they don't try to push the boundaries as much. But I still think that they may have a very slim chance, and we'll see if they are able to present that evidence, because they feel like they've had more communication when it comes to the Lure part than any other part. And they did say that it was prior to the race starting and before even they got on the racetrack for practice. And they let him go on the track, and they basically confiscated it 4 hours after with no prior communication, saying, hey, we're going to go ahead and confiscate that stuff. And they probably should have confiscated it before they even got on the racetrack for practice, which would have made a lot of sense. But I will say this. I think it's very slim. I still don't think that Hendrick Motorsports is going to win the appeal. And it also makes a lot of sense for them to go ahead and have the crew chief start basically serving their suspensions. But going back to the talk about it, I think it's very slim, but I don't think they're going to win the appeal. I think that when it does happen, which I think the appeals will be a couple weeks before it happens, which is, like I said, why they're going to have the crew chief serve it anyways. They don't want to wait. They just want to get it out of the way really, really quickly. But I do not expect that Hendrick Motorsports is going to win the appeal. I think you're going to end up losing the appeal, because NASCAR, they have evidence on their side. It probably has more evidence than Hendrick Motorsports does. The Hendrick does have a slight shot at winning, but like I said, I think it's very unlikely and probably not going to happen where Hendrick Motorsports is going to end up winning their appeal. This is going to be a very important story to watch as time goes on, but like I said, I do not expect that Hendrick Motorsports is going to end up winning their appeal. I don't think they end up winning their appeal, in my opinion. So, that is going over today's NASCAR news and motorsports news video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe to the channel, notifications on so you know if I win a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Links down below over that, and comment your thoughts below on today's episode. What are your thoughts about Hendrick Motorsports appealing the penalties, and do you think they will win or not? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And what are your thoughts about Hailie Deegan getting a new sponsor and Kevin Harvick running a commemorative scheme at North Wilkesboro? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Tomorrow on the channel, we're going to have multiple videos on the channel. We're going to have the Xfinity Series and Truck Series race reviews. There could be another video later today, but I'm not sure on that at this point. And then on Sunday, we'll have the NASCAR Cup Series race review from Atlanta Motor Speedway. And also, we'll be having the starting line of video drop in the morning of that as well. That will be on the channel. And then we have a lot of other content dropping throughout later this week, as well as we get closer to Circuit of the Americas as well. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.